to Peter's session?
Yeah.
Okay, so what were some of the things that you guys talked about, discussed?
Hiking.
The rubric for focus.
Okay.
Here it is. It's the HSA English rubric
Okay.
for the BCRs.
Expecting more out of written responses.
I think that's a big one. One of the conversations that we had with the previous group was the whole issue with spelling, because I don't know if you know, spelling is not really instructed anymore in public schools, and on standardized tests, spelling theoretically doesn't count. It doesn't matter as long as you spell close to the word, then it matters. I mean, that's all that matters. If you can read it and figure out what the word is, that's all that's required of students. But obviously, we want to have higher expectations than what they may have in school. Additionally, if nothing else, Pat has to show these to parents when she has their meetings. And for some of our parents, they might not be able to instruct them on writing essays. They might not be able to instruct them on math strategies. But most parents know when a word is spelled incorrectly. And usually that's the first thing that they jump at when they see a response. So we need to make sure that we have high expectations so that we can show the parents that we're not just wasting their money and their children's time here. With that, remember that even though the students are here because they're having difficulties in school, some of the things that are required of a basic response, like capital letters and punctuation, is learned in kindergarten. And I don't care how much you struggle in school, everyone knows how to put a capital letter at the beginning of a sentence. Everyone knows how to put a question mark, period, or exclamation point at the end. You might not use it the right way, but you know something has to be put at the end of a response. So make sure, again, that you're stating those expectations. So what I have is just like what Peter showed to you, a model BCR, or actually a sample BCR from a 5th grade student here on the floor. And there are a couple of things that I want you to try to identify as being errors in their responses. 2 of them probably hit you as soon as you see it. 1 of them, maybe not so much. Careful.
None for you.
Guess not.
There aren't any more? It might be in that set. There you go. And again, this was written by a 5th grade student.
Oh, what?
5th grade student.
Gracious.
Yes, exactly. Thank you. Anybody want to share what they noticed?
No
Or rather, not
punctuation.
anybody want to. Can somebody share what they noticed? Sorry, what was that?
No punctuation.
No punctuation.
She didn't capitalize because.
They're phrases.
Phrases, they're not
They're
complete
not even
sentences.
complete sentences. I mean,
Because, obviously, there's a spelling error there. And even if it was spelled incorrectly, there's not a capital letter there.
I have no idea what the questions are. There's no way to tell what they're supposed to
Was
be
this what you
answering.
do in the 5 out of 5? Like
That's,
one of us?
that's the subtle error that I was thinking if anyone would pick up on. This was given a 5 out of 5, both of them.
Oh, geez.
That's a mess. That's a mess.
There's also a capital letter in the middle of the sentence.
Right.
Oh, or I should say,
So-
the middle of the phrase.
Obviously, you see the reason why this month's topic was picked, because there's not consistent expectations here about what is acceptable and what is not as far as written responses are. The 5 out of 5 should never be there. I wouldn't even grade it until the student produced some semblance of a complete sentence. But someone looked at this and said that that was okay. So we need to make sure that across the board, we know what the expectations are and that we are clearly communicating that to the students. So to quickly review, I have another version of the rubric. This one's more kid-friendly, but it's the exact same criteria. 0 is when you have an incorrect answer or blank. 1 is when you just answer the question. I think this is good to show students, or at least remind them, because you have some unmotivated students who say, I answered the question. Great, but a passing score is a 2. So you don't even get a 2 just by answering the question. the HSA, the MSA in school, everywhere, requires that you at least provide some sort of text relevant details. So just giving the answer is not enough, it's not acceptable. A 2 has the answer and a text relevant detail. And a 3, that toughest part is explaining your thinking. So depending on the type of question, it could be making a connection, it could be drawing a conclusion. For comparing and contrasting, which is the book that we're going to be looking at, it could just be telling how they're the same and how they're different. Some of the questions just ask you to tell how they're the same, or they might just use the word compare. Students might look at that and say, I told you how they're the same, but you have to remind them that if the book is comparing and contrasting, a perfect response would have some sort of comparison as well as differences between whatever you're looking at. So I wrote some model BCRs just so that you can use as a frame of reference. This is similar to what I give my students, and I teach second grade. So if a student says, oh, I can't do this, second graders can do it. First graders are expected to do it. Fifth graders, sixth graders, seventh graders, and high school students should know how to do this. Do you have one, Steven?
I have a
Okay. So this BCR came from Focus, Comparing and Contrasting Book F, and it was lesson 14. Before I read the question, there's one thing that I forgot to mention to you. At the top of the answer sheet is the SLAMS acronym, which I don't know if Peter mentioned or emphasized, but it tells the students right there what the expectations are. Forget the MSA, HSA rubric, right on the sheet. If they are used to reading directions and looking at what they're completing, it has the criteria. You have to write in a complete sentence. Lines, that's a big one. There's no reason why, if there are 4 or 5 lines in the space, that you're writing something that doesn't even finish one line or fill up a whole line. Give something that at least uses the majority of the space. Give a response that uses the majority of the space provided. A is for answer. Obviously, we want you to answer the question and answer all parts of the question. Some of these books have 2-part questions. Students will focus so much on the first part, they don't even look at the second part of the question. That gives them a 0 because they did not answer the question at all. Even if they answered part of it, they did not completely answer the question. Mechanics, again, that's the punctuation, capitalization, spelling, grammar, and support. Like I said before, just giving the answer only gets you a part of the way. It doesn't even get you a passing score. You need to use details from the text. So the question that I responded to is, when do lightning and thunder happen during a thunderstorm? As you see, the 0 doesn't make use of the word lightning or thunder. It's not actually answering the question at all. And it's lifted verbatim from the text. What students need to know is that, again, on the MSA and HSA, you can find the perfect support from the text. If you literally lift it and do not provide anything on your own, you get a 0. And I've seen some great responses where I'm like, wow, you really answered it. But it copied straight from the text, 0. And the students don't like seeing that. Obviously, plagiarism is real. We want to get them out of just copying straight from the text. 1, both happen together in a storm. Great, answer the question. And what? You need to give me more. Right. Number 2, score of 2. Lightning and thunder happen at the same time. So right there we have the word lightning, we have the word thunder, you answer the question. Happen at the same time in a storm, but lightning causes thunder. They're starting to use details from the text, but they can extend from that detail to give me something more meaningful. And then the 3, as you see, both lightning and thunder happen at the same time in a thunderstorm. Because light travels faster than sound, you will see the lightning before you hear the thunder during the storm. So they're telling you how they're the same, and then how they differ. That would get them a 3. For some students, right now, all they can produce is a 2. But it's important that you communicate to them that these BCRs, these responses, are out of a 3-point scale. So, you're setting them up, you're congratulating them and rewarding them for what they've accomplished, but also letting them know that there's more that they can do. Students that get 3s, great, keep getting the 3s, like you don't just stop there. So what I would like for you to do quickly, if you can get into, I guess it's 2 big groups. I'm going to give you, well, you should have a book right there by you. Is there a book over there? A focus book? That's fine. Pick any unit. I would say a short informational text, just because for time's sake, I don't think you want to read a folktale. But pick a short passage, try to answer that question, and then we're going to switch and see if the other group can figure out what the question was, and then give them a score. Last thing before I shut my mouth for the moment, each question tells you to look at the clue words or use clue words in your answer. During the intro, when you're introducing the book, and really you should be doing it before each session, look at the section before lesson preview. It has the clue words that are relevant for each focus book. So remind students that they have to incorporate one of those words in their response.
Somebody used